Hi, everybody.
Good morning.
Hi, Ariel. Hi, guys. Hi, Emily. Let's see who else is here. Cindy, Hala, Yatsen, and Parsa. How you doing? Wow, Uriel, you look like you're actually awake there. It's exciting.
Yeah, I actually made my bed and cleaned my room
What?
and drank the water. I know, right?
Should we worry about you? Man, that's unbelievable.
I don't know. I'm just
That's
really
way
happy.
cool. Way cool.
I know, right?
So it's Monday. Happy Monday. We're going to wait just a minute more because I'm sure we're going to get about 3 people here. Open up my chat so I can see. Oh, hi, Yatsen. We'll wait. Hope you had a good weekend. I had a good weekend. Kind of just enjoyed the sun and my allergies, which means summer is coming. That's good. There's Jafet right there. Hi, Jafet. Welcome. One more minute here and see if, let's see who else. Eugene will come, Lupe will come, and Davis will come, I betcha. Not too much new. We celebrated a birthday at my son's birthday was this weekend. So we did that. That was fun. So we ate too much. Ate a giant piece of chocolate birthday cake. It's fantastic. All right.
That's good. Chocolate cake is good. I don't like chocolate
cake. Makes me kind of wired, to be honest. Like the sugar and all the chocolate. Like I was up till 1 a.m. I was watching Netflix and like, I'm not tired. And then the next day I was tired, but yeah, it was delicious.
Like if I eat too much candy, what's it called? My stomach starts to hurt. I mean hurt. It starts to hurt. I'm like, nah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Favorite candy. My daughter is a physician down in Louisiana, and her favorite candy for all of her life has been, which I think are gross, those little hot tamales, those little cinnamon hot tamale candies. Do you know these? They're very spicy cinnamon, and they're just basically sugar and red food dye, but she loves them. So whatever, different taste.
I think I did eat that.
Yeah, have you eaten them?
I think so.
Yeah. Okay, so guys, let me share my screen and let's look at today, since we're all trying to be awake. So this is a short week. We only have 3 days. because Friday is a grading day. And the reason it's a grading day is that I have to put final quarter grades in by noon on Friday. So I graded this weekend everything except for the quiz, which I have to grade by hand. And most of you are fine. There are a number of you that are missing the last 3 assignments. So the Dr. Reisman video notes. And remember, you can turn these in anytime. So you can send them to my email. You can post them up on Canvas. I will look for them. Also, remember that I get about 50 emails a day. And if you've sent something to my email and I have not posted the grade, that means right now I have not seen it. So, or somehow I slipped over it. So you might want to send me a reminder, Miss Ellis, I sent you a picture of this or whatever. A whole bunch of you need to finish your anatomy and clay heart. The quiz, of course, I don't know how many people have taken it, a bunch. You can still take the quiz. And then you can turn in your midterms. These are pretty easy points. There's about 50 some points represented there, maybe more. Okay, questions about that? So ideally, on a regular school year, my phone. On a regular year, I would call the last day for turning things in for this quarter mark would be last Friday. This year, it is the day of the test on Thursday. So the day of our cardio test is Thursday. And I got to really looking at that. I had a couple of students send me really good questions. So that is essentially today. I'm going to answer questions that people just don't get. So that is today's class. Tomorrow, we're going to talk just briefly about gas exchange in the lungs. We're not talking about pulmonary diseases. We're not going to talk about the mechanism muscle-wise of how breathing occurs. We're not doing any of that. You want to know why? We don't have time. So we're just going to talk about gas exchange, how your lungs oxygenate blood to bring back to your heart. Probably the most important part of the whole thing anyway. Although patients can get in respiratory trouble in a zillion ways. And so almost every month, especially since my family's very involved in medicine, I learned something that I didn't know you could get sick from. So just saying, there's a lot to learn, and that's what makes it fun. Having a career where you know everything in 2 months and then you do that for the next 40 years, does this sound interesting to anyone? Yeah, you could just be honest on that one. It doesn't sound interesting to most students. Really, when they think about it, they think, oh, I don't want to memorize all that stuff. But then when they really get to thinking about 40 years of working is a long time. It's a long time. And it's cool to have something that's changing and evolving all the time, like medicine. So not selling it to you, but kind of. I heard from a student this weekend who is graduating from Linfield Nursing School. I won't tell you her name. She is from the Middle East. She was in this class 7 years ago. And she had quite a traumatic time. I can't share the details of it, but she had a lot of trauma in her life and loss in terms of family members and civil unrest where she lived. And she immigrated here. And to be honest, I'm being completely honest, she hardly talked to me the whole first year we had her. And I just thought, oh, well, okay, she's just super shy or reserved, and that's okay. Okay, well, we had her all 3 years of health careers. We had her in Intro to Health Careers. Our then anatomy teacher had her, Miss Jacobs had her in the junior year, and then I had her again in the senior year. And she graduated from nursing school this week. and it blew my mind. And just like many students from the Middle East and other parts of the country, she had a lot of really amazing foundational science. And that once she learned English, she was kind of off and running. But she was very, she was very challenged by living in a new culture. And I just want to say how much I appreciate her strength and her decision to be a student. And she is going to work on one of the neuro units at St. Vincent's Hospital. So pretty cool story and really heartwarming for me as a teacher. Okay. So any questions, guys, about anything I've talked about here? Let's see. Here's my questions I'm going to talk about today. I have put a little star by ones that will likely show up on your test. At least there'll be some question. There's also some that are just kind of interesting, like why do people's legs swell? It's a great question. There's about 80 reasons why people's legs swell. What holds cardiomyocytes together? What's the difference between an artery and a vein? Review where blood comes and goes in a heart contraction, probably the real element of what we taught. You do have a review assignment that I'm adding. That's just like last time's, except this. It's just from the word bank. So you will just get in the word bank and you get to pick your own words. And here's the assignment. On page 207, choose 12 words and define both the what and the why. Can somebody, I use this term all the time and no matter what class I'm teaching, can somebody tell me what that actually means? Aren't they the same thing, really? Are they? The what and the why of vocabulary? Okay, so you can unmic if you want, or you could just put it in the chat, or you can be wrong. Actually, my favorite students are the ones that are willing to be wrong. Why? Because that's how you learn. And all of us are wrong. And sort of the brave are the people that are like, maybe it's this, and you could be wrong, and then you don't melt somehow if you happen to have a wrong answer. Meaning, why is it important? Yeah. So if the term is coronary vessels, you would just be oh so very dead without your coronary vessels. Agreed or disagreed? Can you live without your coronary vessels? I know it's Monday, guys, but class goes a lot better and you're going to learn a lot more. And you're not going to be as tired if you put something in the chat. It's the cure for fatigue, putting things in the chat. Can you live without them? Just think about this. Some babies are born with not enough coronary vessels. Why are they important? Parsa, help me out. Why not? So so Uriel says it's like what it is like if you're asking a question and why is like it tells you the meaning of it. Sure. And so I want you pick a profession, nursing, doctoring, physicians assisting. I like your answer, Parsa, a lot. Imagine yourself standing in the hospital 10 years from now next to a young couple that have had a new baby, and the new baby is not nice and adorable and pink. The new baby is kind of bluish, this color. Nobody wants to see their baby this color. And the reason is because the baby was born with only half of their coronary arteries. So I want you to envision yourself saying to them when they say, oh, why is this a problem? Is it a problem? And why? And Parsa's right, absolutely right. But we're going to pretend that one of the couple is my husband, Paul. And so if Parsa says to him, and he's very shy, okay, he's reserved, he's also just uber smart. And he's going to say something like this, Dr. Ebrahimi, I need to know more about that. Like, what does that mean? How does it give the heart power? That's the sentence that has to include. So the what sentence is the coronary vessels sit on top of the myocardium and they give the heart its power. And the reason it's important is that blood goes through those vessels into the heart muscle and gives it oxygen and sugar. And without those coronary vessels, that muscle has no food. And so it will beat more slowly. It will beat with less power. And the patient won't be able to put very much blood out into arterial circulation. So this is the kind of explanation. It can be shorter, it can be one sentence, but it has to address the why. That's your review for Thursday. So a couple students have already asked me about the test. So the test on Thursday is just in our quiz section. It'll become available to you at 8:40. It's a little bit longer because the unit was a little bit longer. It will take the whole class period. And so then I believe you all have a few days off because school doesn't really start up again until the 22nd, which is Thursday. A week from the day that you take your test is the day that hybrid learning starts. And so I know. And so teachers are going to in-service those days. I'm sure that's on how to use my new camera at school, how to keep my classroom clean. Well, the 22nd is a Thursday. Let me answer that question. Yeah, the 22nd is Thursday. And when we come back, we're probably going to spend a day kind of regrouping. It's Thursday, is it? Ooh, okay. It'll be cool. Dr. Romanek and I'll both be there. We might just talk a little bit about the Health Careers program and how we plan to spend the end of the year. Okay. Questions about anything? Were you all good? The intro, yeah. September and April. I like the September and April idea too. Okay, so right now you need paper to write on. Remember, I'm in office hours in the morning at 8 o'clock. If y'all need help, especially those of you that are not passing this class, my great wish is that all of you have a passing grade at quarter, or that we have a plan in place to get you a passing grade, because I'm not in the habit of not passing people and I don't like it. Passing grade like above a D. So I would rather you had a C or better, but I'll tell you how it makes me feel as a teacher. It makes me feel like I didn't help my patient. Like I had a patient that was really hurting and I didn't help them. So if y'all could communicate with me, those of you that have missing work, that would be fantastic. Okay, so get your paper to write on. I'm going to put my whiteboard on. We're going to go for it with our questions, if I could figure out what I did with them. Okay, excellent. Good. Doesn't look quite right. How about that one? There we go. Fix my window. Okay. All right then. So the first question I have is, let's see, of all those questions, why don't you all just go ahead and draw the heart? I know you can. I'll start you off. Okay. So it's almost like this is the most important thing we did this quarter. And so if you've been like in the kitchen eating cereal during this time in the past, today would be a really good time to be able to know what's what in the heart. Because a lot of these questions address that. They're really excellent questions. They're thinking questions. So it tells me that the student isn't just what sort of just occupying a chair, but or occupying a screen in our case, but that the student is really thinking about humans and probably really intends a career in healthcare. So welcome. So, you know, I really, when I've been a patient in my life in the hospital 8 times. So that's scary, 8 times, not including babies, that would be 10 times. And I can tell you that when I had a really competent nurse and physician, I was so much more relaxed. I just so much more relaxed. So that's really where we're going. That's our goal. And that starts with a really interested student now, or a student that comes to me and was like, hey, can you help me out? Okay. Today, Emily's asking, are we going to answer all the questions? I don't think we're going to get to them all because honestly, there's hours of lecture time in those questions, but I'm going to go for the ones that I know I'm testing on first, which seems fair, right? And then the others later. And Emily, and also a couple other people that sent these same questions in. Maybe that's what we'll do our first day back in class is we will look at our exam, things that people missed, and we will answer the questions that you really have. Maybe you have a family member with heart disease. Maybe you have a family member with really swollen legs, or somebody who's very short of breath walking upstairs. So we'll answer those really personal questions too, I think are very important. Okay, but you're drawing right now. I'm going kind of fast because I know that you have drawn this 6 circles. And I am going to answer some of those questions right now. Okay, so remember that there are 12 things to label. And I'm not going to do them again right now because we've done it and we've done it. It's in your book also. And the reason I call these great vessels, guys, is because they are great. If any one of them isn't working, you're going to have a patient that's really going to have a difficult time surviving. So that's why I call them the great vessels. Remembering also that your capillaries, if you didn't have capillaries, you also wouldn't survive. The little tiny little delivery systems. And we'll be talking more about them tomorrow in your lungs. But the human body is just an amazing and beautiful piece of art that a lot of students that we have sent to undergraduate and graduate school out of health careers have come back to us and said, we were just scratching the surface. I said, yes. And they're so amazed by what they know and what they learn in their specialty areas So like, and I'll give you a really great example. So I am fairly comfortable taking care of a pretty sick heart patient, someone who has heart disease. And I know a fair bit about it. And I can recognize an emergency, and I can recognize when things are starting to go better, and I can teach the family, and I can teach another student, and I can work hand in hand with a physician and help somebody get well. Okay. I can't do that with premature babies. Why? It's not my specialty area, and I don't know very much about it. And they scare me. Sick babies kind of scare me. Um, I don't know why. They always have, and I always feel like, am I going to do everything perfectly, perfectly well? And why don't I have that feeling with adults? I don't know, but I don't. So there's a lot to be interested in and learn. Oh, babies scare other students. Yes. And my own babies didn't scare me, but someone else's sick baby, I feel like I'm holding $1 million in my arms. And if I break it, that's kind of how I feel. Thank you, Kenneth, for the good review on the arteries, chambers, and valves. Love that, arteries and veins. So here we go. Here's our heart. Let's draw blood flow through this heart now. And I'm going to use black with arrows. I want you to draw this on yours too. We've done this before. So low oxygen blood coming back to the heart through the vena cavas into the right atrium, through the tricuspid valve into the right ventricle. Notice this is all still low oxygen blood. Ventricles compress, push blood through the pulmonary valve and to the two branches of the pulmonary artery, off to the lungs. This is the left side. This is the right side. Now, magic happens here. We're going to talk about that magic tomorrow. And this blood now becomes nice and red with fresh oxygen from the left lung in this pulmonary vein, remembering that veins labeled so that they're bringing blood back to the heart. This is a vein, this is a vein, these are veins, bringing blood back. This set of veins right here come from the where? They come all the way behind. I'm going to connect them by dots so that you can see they're coming all the way from the right lung. It's really not that far. It's about that far. But on our drawing, it looks huge because these became oxygenated here and entered the left atrium. Then oxygenated blood to the left ventricle, through the aortic valve and into the biggest artery in the body, the aorta, and out to the head. There's a hole here with another artery. There's actually 3 coming up there. And then this is the descending aorta down to the legs. Remember the iliacs that we did in our drawing. Okay. So you can see the non-oxygenated portions and the oxygenated portions. I may ask you on our test, in this particular part of the heart, are we talking oxygenated or not? So you need to know how this works. Okay. So to answer the first question, does the myocardium beat the heart? I actually don't know exactly what this student means by this, but if you're talking about does the myocardium initiate or start the heartbeat? So I wish I could find all my pens. So remember I taught you that you have this cool pathway in the, it's going to be a little funky here, in the specialized group of cells called the pacemaker, also called the sinoatrial node, the SA node, but you can learn it by pacemaker this year. That connects a specialized group of cells that come right just like this. And they essentially function like a pathway for for a chemical reaction that causes the heart to contract first top and then bottom. So it starts here. There's also a little group of these that go over to the left atrium. So the left atrium contract together and then the ventricles contract together. Now, if there's illness in any part of this, the patient's heartbeat will become irregular. Meaning, instead of hearing these two valves close and then this two valves close together, you're going to get something weird. So I love to take students on clinicals in the hospital, and we put a stethoscope on the patient's chest, and I watch my student's face. And sometimes my student's face is like this. This is a not very good professional face, like, okay, no. When you're listening and you hear something weird with a stethoscope, your face has to look just the same to the patient, because you don't want your nurse or doctor going like this, like, yikes, when they listen to your chest. Agreed? Yeah, it's a heart murmur. Murmur just meaning unusual sound. So now, a lot of you guys have heart murmurs because you're young. And the reason that you have a heart murmur is not because your valves are off or this system is off. It's because your myocardium is so muscly and so strong that when it beats, it makes kind of a rumbling sound. This is called a pediatric innocent murmur, meaning a very athletic, young heart. When patients get older and they have a mess up of this system, it is not what we would call innocent, meaning we shouldn't pay attention to it. In an adult like me, to have a really irregular heartbeat, my doctor would be worried about it. So questions about that. So does the myocardium beat the heart? No. This node does. And this node, we can back up and eventually find, and you'll learn that with Dr. Romanick, what nerve is stimulating this pacemaker. But right now we're just learning this is where it starts. Okay. What does the myocardium do? The myocardium is a muscle that can be weak and flabby because you sit around and do nothing your entire life. Or you eat too much and you turn into a giant couch potato and you just binge on Netflix. So, or you have a lot of guilty pleasures like homemade ice cream. And you think, oh, I'm not going to eat that tonight. That's kind of how I am sometimes. Like, you know what? You've had ice cream 3 times this week, Ellis. You can't have any more. So, Parsa, not sure why you put hippocampus on there. Can you help me? Put it in the chat. So are you talking about the originator of the heartbeat neurologically? It can, but your vagus nerve is actually the immediate control. And yes, eventually the brainstem and the hippocampus will control the heartbeat. Don't have to know that for our test, but that's an excellent point. Okay. Have I answered that question? Let me mark them off. Any questions on that particular one? I think I'm answering. I did the pathway through the heart. Are the atrium beating simultaneously? Yes, they are. Why is there more than one pulmonary vein? So there's the right pulmonary veins and the left pulmonary veins. Why are there 2 of them? Put that in the chat. Why are there 2 sets of pulmonary veins? Why not just one? I'm waiting for y'all. There's Davis. I'm waiting. I'm taking a tiny coffee break. That's one of the questions. Why is there more than one pulmonary vein? Or you can unmic yourself. Absolutely. And that is absolutely a good why, Kenneth. But the question is, from where? It needs to transfer more oxygenated blood from where? Yeah, right, Emily. Thank you. So you've got one set of pulmonary veins right here coming from the left lung. And these will just get tinier and tinier and tinier until they get into capillary beds. And then this set right here goes over to your right lung. If you didn't have this set, could you live? You actually can. No, you can. It's amazing. But we have patients that have an entire, say they get a big cancer in their right lung, and we just take it out. One of the surgeons that I worked with at my trauma hospital didn't have a right lung, did not have this set. So one of the beautiful designs of the human body is we kind of have a backup system. For some of our organs, we have a backup system. So we have 2 kidneys, we have 2 lungs. Okay, so you can live without, but it's really helpful to have 2 sets of veins bringing blood back to the heart. And so now one of the other questions was, what's the difference between an artery and a vein? It's a little complicated. I sort of get the frustration on that because anatomists, people who are specialists in anatomy, have struggled with how to explain this. So in some textbooks, they'll say, well, you know, all arteries are full of oxygenated blood. Well, no, they're not. The pulmonary artery isn't. It's right here. And it's full of non-oxygenated blood going to the lungs. So our book's definition is this. Arteries carry blood away from the heart. So pulmonary artery, carrying right vein, right ventricle, non-oxygenated blood to the lungs, away from the heart and back to the heart through a vein. So when you're taking a test, if you look at something and you're going, is that an artery or a vein? The question is it coming into the heart or going out of the heart? So these right here, superior vena cava, inferior vena cava, they are bringing blood to the heart, so they are a vein. Makes sense? Now, just to kind of go further with that question, if we're talking about the system of outside the heart, the arteries and veins, there are dramatic differences that we haven't gotten to in this unit, and I'm not going to test you on them. But what you do need to know is this. Put your hand on your carotid artery and don't push too hard, right? So put your finger right here and then just slide over one side or the other. You should be able to feel your pulse. Okay, so that's an artery. Veins don't have pulses. It's one of the big differences. And the reason is the arteries are all coming off the aorta and they're getting this nice pulse wave. Okay, they're getting this nice pulse wave. And they have a thicker muscle layer that makes them strong because they're under pressure. They're under more pressure from the ventricle. Okay, that's one of the big differences is they have a pulse wave. If you cut an artery, you're going to bleed a lot faster than if you cut, well, your vena cava, you bleed very quickly, but because it's big. But if you cut a small vein, like in your finger or a venous capillary in your finger, you're not going to bleed very long because the blood will slow down. It's not under pressure from the left ventricle. Okay. So for your intents and purposes, and because we've really focused on the heart, we're just going to talk about arteries and veins having a different direction at this point. Okay. Why is the pacemaker in the right atrium and not the left? Here's the answer. I do not know, and neither does anyone else. There's a lot of things we just don't know. The design of the human body in many ways is a mystery. It's also what makes it interesting. I don't know. I could guess, but that's exactly what it would be, and you don't have to suffer through my guessing. What makes all the heart tissue beat in a coordinated way? That's a big question. So I'm going to clean up my drawing now. Take my arrows off a little bit. Mrs. Ellis's drawings can just get fantastically messy. Okay, just a little better. All right. Okay, let's remember, and I'm going to make them red on this side of the heart, that you have these very cool cells. And I'm drawing them huge. And they are, what's the name of these? Anybody want to put that in the chat? They have a cool name. I'm just going to draw them together right here. Nope. I'm going to dissect this word for you. That's a cardiomyocyte. These are cells. Okay. Heart, muscle, myo is muscle, cell, heart muscle cell. So there are bazillions of them, and you're all throughout your atrium, all the myocardium, three-dimensionally, the entire heart muscle is made of these. And they are very different than some other kinds of cells. One of the things that makes them different is that they have a piece of connective tissue in here, and it has a name, and I'm not teaching you the name. So one of our students in this class said this, Miss Ellis, there are just so many words. I know it. So I'm trying to sift through the ones that I think are most important, but the concepts you can totally get. And that is this, that when your pacemaker sends this chemical signal, there is an exchange of chemicals between two myocytes that happens like this. That's how long it takes, or less. Okay? That is because there is a special kind of tissue inside these myocytes that holds them together. And these little cells are specialized. They actually can beat all by themselves. One cell can go like this and conduct its own chemical reaction. So I use the example of a marching band. Okay, so like if you're watching a football game, halftime, and there's a marching band, there's always a drum major in front of all the musicians, and they are watching that director. Why? Why are they watching the director? Don't they know the music? I mean, once you've played the 9 songs that Beaverton High School plays at games 800 times, you know the song. They want to know the director's attention. They want to know when to start, and they want to know when to end. Otherwise, if the trombones are playing the third measure of music and the flutes are playing the first measure of music, It's not a song anymore. Okay, so that's the function of this, is to send this signal chemically all throughout the heart very quickly to get the cardiomyocytes to go, go, go all together. And that happens by an exchange of ions. So that means sodium and potassium. You'll get this in regular anatomy class. Your book doesn't really talk about it much yet, and there's no reason for it to. This is a survey class, an orientation class to the human body. But know that the cardiomyocyte is a different kind of tissue. It has a durability in which it does not break apart. The cells are stuck together in a very unique way. And that tissue, my dog's watching me intently right now. Okay. And it conducts energy on a chemical reaction very quickly and at the same time. Now, I don't know if that's enough or too much. Oh, were you? Oh, some people were in Yahtzee. Oh, yeah, cool. Bunch of direct messages, people in marching band. The human body is an enormous marching band with, seriously, probably millions of different instruments, if you think about it that way. It's kind of amazing. Okay, what time is it? 9:50. Okay. I agree that our student who wrote me most of these questions said this. Miss Ellis, I think that the 2 pages that describe blood pressure in our reading were unbelievably confusing. So I was like, really? So I kind of looked back at them this weekend, and you know what? I completely agree. Okay. Yeah, I use Google sometimes too, or I have a really wonderful book. I should drag it out for you so you can see it. I'm looking for it over here in my bookshelf. Just hang on a second. Oh, I can't. Oh, here it is. So here's one of my favorite books. So disease process is made incredibly easy so that I can teach them to my students, but I also have anatomy made incredibly easy. And I also dislike the way blood pressure. So I think the last thing I'm going to talk about today, yeah, I think the bad part about Google is that it sometimes gives you things that aren't true by someone who means well, but they are inaccurate. So that's a big problem. Second is TMI. Just way too much information. So I'm going to erase my picture now unless there's a question on the heart, and then I'll talk about blood pressure. Well, maybe I don't need to erase all the way. I'll just do this. So blood pressure is important in our cardiac picture because blood pressure is what's the pressure inside your vessels. So that seems pretty simple. So it's important to this heart because this left ventricle and this right ventricle have to press against 2 kinds of pressure, right? So the right ventricle has to pump against the pressure in the lungs, which there shouldn't be very much. And if your lungs are damaged and you do a ton of smoking or you damage your lungs, you will increase the pressure there and make your right ventricle very unhappy. But blood pressure is what your left ventricle has to push against when it's pushing out into the aorta. So let's just take our aorta and let's just draw it sideways. So here's the aorta, and it has these nice muscle walls. And blood pressure is what's pushing against them. So sort of like a garden hose, like there's blood coming through, going this direction. Now, what can change your blood pressure? Well, this is a muscle layer. So you have a big muscle layer on your most of your arteries. Okay. And in you guys, because you're young and your muscles are just soft and like super healthy, when the heart beats, that's the heart beating, 60 or 80 times a minute, it is shooting blood through there. And your muscle wall goes like this as the pulse wave comes through. It goes like softly. You can feel it right here. You're feeling your carotid artery to accept and relax and accept and relax. Okay? That is called what? When the ventricles beat, that is called systole or systolic pressure. So for you guys, I'm going to say 110 micrograms of hemoglobin, doesn't matter. We're going to talk about how to measure it, but that top number of blood pressure is your heart beating. The bottom number is diastole, which is rest, right? So after the pulse wave goes through, these moments of rest, when your vessel's in a resting state, are your lower number. I'm going to say yours is 60, about half the pressure. Okay. The question is, so the concept of what blood pressure is pretty simple. The number of things that can affect it are huge. So let's talk just about one today. One would be stress. Okay. Anybody have an idea? Oh, yeah. Okay. So Emily's has got a great idea here. Emily, you just got to take advanced health careers in anatomy. That's what I want to say. You're going to get all, you're ahead of us. But yeah, okay. So let's just take smoking and stress as what it does to blood pressure. So when you're really stressed, think of a time in your life when you were so stressed. Okay. You make a vasoconstrictor, a chemical that makes this muscle layer squeeze like a python. And it will move this wall up here and make the vessel smaller and make the pressure inside go way high. Okay, in contrast, if I get really relaxed, if I get in a swimming pool and swim laps and forget about all my troubles, my vessels will relax and the pressure will go down. So it's about one big element, and the one I'm going to talk about is about this muscle wall. So stress increases pressure and increases the muscle stress. Doesn't allow this muscle, it's more like your vessels are more like, ugh, instead of like relaxing. To Emily's point, smoking, because of the chemical nicotine is almost twice as powerful as the stress chemicals. And it will squeeze that so tight while you're smoking, and maybe for about an hour afterwards. And then your vessel will finally relax because the half-life of nicotine goes away. Nicotine will squeeze this vessel and increase the systolic pressure. Okay? Now, when I teach advanced health careers, I've got 8 more examples of ways we can change blood pressure, and I'm not going to mess with that today. But I want you to get the idea that it has to do with the pressure inside the vessels. Yes, we can measure it. There are 2 numbers. One is created by the heartbeat, as opposed to the resistance on these walls, and the second one is just rest. Yes, nicotine damages the heart. Emily? How can your blood volume change? Does anybody know? That's a great question. So Emily just put that in the chat. How can blood volume change? What is your blood made of? It's a great question. Anybody know? Yeah, absolutely. How much water you drink? Remembering that we are very high percentage water organisms and that we need plenty of water. That's what puts water in your blood vessels. And we can change our blood pressure also by how much water we drink, or if we drink the wrong kinds of things. Like if you drink Red Bull, it'll make you pee. It'll make you pee off a lot of your fluid and you'll be dehydrated. Okay. For those of you that don't just have random questions that you want to ask, I am done talking about what's on our exam, with the exception of tomorrow's class, which I'm going to talk about lungs a little bit. And so what I want you to know, study for the test. The things that we've had in class about the heart, the parts, the pieces, what's oxygenated, what's not oxygenated, difference between an artery and a vein, your med terms, some of them are going to be on the test. And then whatever we have on lungs tomorrow, I think that's it. Again, Miss Ellis is in this class in particular, not doing tricky wording questions, not doing like, in all cases, except for this, double negatives, not doing those kinds of questions. Those are very hard to read. Those are really a reading question, not a knowledge question. So if you do not have an extra question, you have this time now to work on the assignments that are missing. Remembering, I'd really love to have those by the end of the day on Wednesday. I am posting grades on Friday. Y'all have done an awesome job.
I have a question, please. Where is
Okay,
right
louder,
pulmonary
Kenneth.
vein again?
Where's the right pulmonary vein? Where is it?
Oh, I missed that part on the
Yeah, so
part
here's
play.
right pulmonary, here's left pulmonary. So this is not a very big space, right? How big is this? That big? Not very big. Yeah, this takes a while. And the thing that we're struggling with, guys, is that we're looking at it two-dimensionally, which when you dissect with Dr. Romanek, you won't have that problem. They'll be right in front of you. Nope, no, nothing on the lymph system, on the vet. Then I'll change my, oh, good. Yes, you can always come back and amend assignments, guys, but I want you to be sure that you tell me that you've amended an assignment. So you have to send me a little email chat and say, hey, Miss Ellis, and a bunch of you did that on a vocabulary test. You're like, oh, I added my words, or I won't see it unless I happen to stumble on it, the corrections. Okay. Have an awesome day. I'll see you. See ya. You can go if you want.
Bye.
Bye, guys. Bye, Yasin. Bye, Emily.
Bye. Have a good day.
Oh,
and
okay. Yes, I can
Yeah.
repeat what you should study.
bye.
Bye-bye. So I'm gonna, let me do that. One second. Okay. Just a minute. So Lupe, she's asking me to repeat what we should study. You should be able to know where everything is on the heart. Where are the valves? What is the pulmonary artery? Where is the pulmonary artery? The flow of blood through the heart. You should study your med terms. You should be able to talk about the difference between arteries and veins. You should tell me why capillaries are important. why are capillaries important? I did a whole day talking about arteries, arterioles, and capillary exchange. I'm going to talk more about that tomorrow, so don't miss tomorrow. And then really you should be fine. If you did the reading assignment too, you should be fine. These are the basic things that we have studied. I'm not putting any trick questions on. We really have centered on the heart. Okay, I'll see you later. Bye-bye. Bye, guys.